side of everything that we are going to blissfully do tonight. Wow, we are in for a power show. If you want UFO news, this is the one. And I got a little bit of a creepy personal story to share with all of you when we get going here and we get Science Bob in. Remember, a great way to support what we do on this show, hi Mark Brady, good to see you, is through the Super Chat. And of course, if you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your entertainment needs of all things woo, except when Science Bob is on, because then we skip the woo for the who, what, where, when, why, and how. All right, we got about 35 seconds. Remember, you can pick up your Spaced Out Radio swag just looking below if you're on your computer. We got some swag there. And on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Lee Poping, how you doing? And we're about 30 seconds away here, everyone. And we are going to launch. Gorgeous Jenny, nice to see you. And, yeah, it's going to be a good show, everyone. Very good show. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuned in. And Science Bob is here. Yes, he is. Nicole Sakach will join us in just a few minutes' time as well. And, yeah, do us a favor, if you don't mind. Hi, Sugar Britches. Get your horns up. Let's rock to Bumblefoot. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. The second week of the month, we bring in Science Bob for Science Bob and Friends as we kick off the who, what, where, when, why, and how of all things paranormal. But with all the UFO news that is going on these days, especially out of Washington, D.C., we have a plethora of topics to discuss. Science Bob is here. Dr. Bob McGwier is formerly part of the faculty head of Virginia Tech University. He spent time in the alphabet agencies around the world. He is a brilliant mind when it comes to everything scientific. And, yeah, he doesn't have much hair, but you know what? When you got that much brains, it really fills in the scalp nicely. Science Bob, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio.
It's good to be on, Dave. Good to be on here for Science Bob. I've been traveling for over a week, and we're stuck in a hotel in the middle of Albuquerque, New Mexico, but we're raring to go.
I have a story that I want to share, and
go for it.
I'm going to take a couple of minutes here. So,
do it.
A number of years ago, or 16 years ago, I split up with my ex-wife, and about 10 years, or 11 years ago, we got divorced finally. And her parents, I never really got along with. Her dad and I tolerated each other. Her mother, my ex-mother-in-law, I remember when we were dancing on our wedding night, and I had my dance with my ex-mother-in-law, and she whispered in my ear that she was going to be my worst nightmare. Little did I know that that was going to be true. But nonetheless, humanity and everything kind of kicks in every now and again. And I still have a beautiful daughter with my ex-wife. And my daughter let me know, and my ex-wife let me know that my father-in-law, my former father-in-law, was on a timeline. And he had retired. They'd bought a motorhome. They were going to do some traveling. And all of a sudden COVID hit. That kind of killed their travel plans. And then he wasn't feeling well one day and goes to the doctors and finds out he's terminal. Well, just a few days ago, they put him in hospice. And this morning, for a lot of people who don't know, I try and meditate every morning. And I usually shower between 8:15 and 8:30 in the morning before I have to get going on my daytime job because, I'm a workaholic. And while I'm meditating, and I meditate in the shower, that's the only time I get to meditate. I know it sounds like a weird place, but that's where I meditate. And around 8:25 or so, as I'm meditating, he comes to me and he apologizes. And he said, "I'm sorry for the way we treated you." And I said, "I apologize for the things I did." And I got a text message, while I was talking to Science Bob this morning, because Bob and I talk almost every morning. And while I was talking to Bob, I didn't realize, because I'm driving, hands-free, of course. And when I got to my daytime office, got settled in, I had a text message at 8:56 or 8:57 this morning from my daughter, who told me her grandfather had passed away.
I can tell you were upset because you went, "Bob, gotta go."
Yeah.
I could tell.
So that is kind of what happened. But the fact that I never think of the man, ever. Okay, I'm not a fan of a lot of the ways that I was treated, but the fact that he actually came to me this morning in meditation to apologize, and then I find out 20 minutes later that he had died. He was a very Christian man. He was a very God-fearing man and a godly man, and overall a good man. We may not have seen eye to eye, but his family and his wife were number one in his heart. And you know what? God bless him. And I hope his next journey to the heavens above is a good one. And I accepted his apology when he came to me. And I hope that he accepted mine in his newfound peace, where he's no longer hurting. And, I said a prayer for my daughter, my ex-wife, and her brother. And that was that. It was kind of a cool situation there, man. Never experienced that before.
Well, I'm glad you had that moment with the ex-father-in-law, and glad he reached out. And these things can really, really be meaningful, and sounds like it was. I can hear it in your voice.
Well, it was, and it's funny because when he popped into my head this morning, Bob, I was kind of looking at, what am I thinking about him for? Like, I don't even like the guy. Don't even like him. And then, I remember hearing him say, "I am sorry, and I apologize for the way we treated you." And I apologized back. And I forgave him, and I accepted it. So, I'm not going to hold on to that anger anymore. Peace was made. And I don't know whether he was still alive when that happened, or whether he had already crossed. I don't know. I haven't asked my daughter exactly what time he passed yet. She's got other things on her mind right now in taking care of her mom and her sister and so on and so forth. But just the fact that it happened, pretty heavy, man. Pretty darn heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was the first.
Not fun, but, needed for peace of mind and to try to put a bow on all the past and wish him well on his new journey.
Absolutely. So, I'm just trying to get Nicole Sakach in here right now, Bob. So just bear with me. I have to.
No rush.
Yeah. So
it's not like there's not plenty.
Oh, absolutely. So you know what? Hey, maybe there is something to this whole consciousness thing. And when you cross on over, that you have a chance to seal up some of them wounds that have stuck with you for a number of years. That's the way I'm looking at it, and I'm pretty happy about that, and I feel quite at peace about everything. Quite at peace.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Bigelow spent millions and millions of dollars trying to get an answer. Is there provable life after death? That was part of his interest in the paranormal, part of his interest in Skinwalker Ranch. Then it was part of his interest in his Consciousness Institute and the big essay prize he put up, in which Jeffrey Mishlove, Nick Cook, and one other I can't remember were the top three winners. And I've suggested to everyone that they read Mishlove and Nick Cook's. I won't say anything about the other one because I haven't read it, but Mishlove and Cook's entry in the Bigelow consciousness thing was brilliant. And then our planned guest for tonight, Bob Davis, has written a book called Life After Death, the best evidence. And so I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now in consciousness. And then we've got Hoffman and others giving us models, ways to write down things mathematically about consciousness. And you have Penrose and Hammeroff, who gave us a physical mechanism inside the head, inside the brain, the neural matter, for interacting with the consciousness field. So this stuff is really heating up, and I think we're poised for a breakthrough.
I would hope so. Because it's going to see if science can prove the ultimate woo. That's exactly what it is.
Well, the thing about science is you need data about existence, and we have plenty of data that consciousness exists. There's some big questions. Exactly how is it manifested? Is it physically in our brain, or is it our brain plus something else? And lots of people have done lots of work to say what it isn't. For example, Penrose and Hammeroff have done a lot of work, as I said before, and Penrose, who's won a Nobel Prize in physics, also has done major work in consciousness. He wrote a book called The Emperor's New Mind, and Hammeroff joined him after that book came out, where Penrose thought that consciousness was going to interact with our physical bodies through quantum mechanical means. And so it's just... And he's got a great theory, I think. And I think what we need to do now is find a physics math expression for it that predicts outcomes of experiments. And in these experimental outcomes, we will. Hey, Nicole. Experimental outcomes will test our models, and then we'll go from there.
Oh, where'd she go? There she is. Nicole Sakach joins us here, and thank you, and wearing a nice Element 115 T-shirt of Spaced Out Radio. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
I was half asleep in it. Honestly, I just had to roll out of bed, poof, throw on the hat. I'm ready. What's going on, Science Bob?
Well, I was half asleep before we started because I had a day of hell on the road driving from California home. It was bad today. We wasted 5.5 hours doing nothing on the road today. We were driving down I-40. We ran over this plastic bag. That started the day. We ran over this massive plastic bag, and it wrapped itself around the drive axle of the drive shaft of the Subaru Ascent, and I thought the car was about to blow up.
Oh, no.
And there's Melinda Leslie. Hello, Melinda. Melinda and I spent 2 days together, and we went out and looked at the sky. I put a great picture on Twitter. But Melinda and I did exactly what you expect the two of us to do. We talked nonstop for 2 days.
Bob, why don't you kick things off and tell us about what happened with Melinda Leslie? And you also paid a visit to the secretive Bradshaw Ranch.
We did go to the Bradshaw Ranch, and Melinda and Sharon and I were walking out through the road and going into past the homestead, which is of course now abandoned. And then we walked through the corrals, and we saw lots of footprints, including a clear-cut set of what I thought was much too deep, much too long a gate, and was probably the female Sasquatch they think they have out there that people have talked about, and which Dongo has written about. And then we're going through the corrals and over to one of the old houses, and Melinda says, I feel something. I feel this every time I get about here on this ranch, and I look up at this old house, and I see a shadow figure walking past the windows. Yeah, it was interesting.
Was that your first time seeing a shadow person?
No, not the first time, but this was the first time I saw it in broad daylight. It was 2 hours before dark.
I don't know. The shadow people must be like coming out in full force. Like it was like brought up a month ago, and I did an interview with Grant, and we interviewed Mike Rickseckler, and then Grant has a shadow person panel, and now they're showing up everywhere. My nephew came to me. He saw a shadow person. You see a shadow person. Like, I don't know. Is it like the buzz thing right now, or is there truly like activity, like an uptick in activity?
Yeah, I don't know. Melinda Leslie had, her skin crawled and she could feel kind of this electrostatic feel. And just as soon as I looked up, she's commenting, I see this shadow walk right past this window. And it was inside this building. So it was as clear as day. And blacked out past the window.
Those are some of those like spidey senses that a lot of experiencers don't even know to pay attention to. Like, they blow off those kind of feelings, and Melinda has them honed in. I think I love it. So keep going. That's not all you did with Melinda. Where else did you guys skywatch? Did you put on her?
We did skywatch. We were not able to have useful skies for what we really wanted to do, but in the early part of the evening, after we got to her observing place, I took a great picture of Jupiter, Saturn, the moon, and Venus all in a line in the sky. Nice. And I put that up on Twitter for people to see. So, and then, of course, Melinda and I, we've been each other's here nonstop. And she is doing a bunch of interesting things, which I'm not going to, spoil her. She'll tell it. But she will tell it. And she's doing a bunch of very, very interesting things. And, of course, she runs this nightly excursion to go outside and observe the skies. She does that. She is available to do it 7 days a week. And she gets so many people doing that. And the other thing she does, including teaching people how to bend spoons with your mind and stuff like that, that she makes a living. She makes a good living. And Sedona is a great place for that. So Linda has a terrific office, and she's, you know how enthusiastic she is. So, I mean, we're friends, so I already knew it was going to be an enthusiastic trip. But you could just imagine people coming up and having her talk to them and tell them and put on the night vision gear and go out and look at the sky and see stuff. And they have seen some really cool stuff recently. And she was going to go picking my brain on the science. Could this have been this and could this have been that? Because she saw a big, huge craft with a group. Huge craft. And she was trying to make sure it's not Starlink, make sure it's not this and that and the other. And I kept telling her why, no, it can't be Starlink. But if you're telling me this part right, there is no way it's Starlink. Well, wasn't there a launch? I says, yes, but you wouldn't have seen what you could have seen that might have looked like that as part of the launch because it was over in Florida and you can't see it from Arizona. So she's doing exactly what she should do, is rule it all out, all the everyday boring explanations and then tell her clients, this was something weird. And she saw something weird because it exhibited non-ballistic motion, and it was odd. It was huge.
See, we just need more scientists and more ufologists like hanging out and spending weekends together.
And she regularly consults with Mark D'Angelo, so that's good.
Right.
And Mark and I've gotten where I hang out about 2 or 3 nights a week with Mark when he puts his telescope live on YouTube, and he shows amazing things in the sky with his fancy telescope and the really, really expensive cameras.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Mark D'Antonio is a great guy.
Mm-hmm. I know he was on here just a couple nights ago, wasn't he? No, that was McNabb. I'm confusing my marks here that run around with people with awesome cameras.
Yep. So I have a situation similar to his, but he's had his longer. But look, I started acquiring my fancy telescope with $3,000 cameras and this for doing the astronomy stuff over a year ago, and it has taken over a year for all the parts to arrive because of all these part shortages, because so much stuff is made in China.
Well, I want to ask you guys, because we have another pilot's report coming out where this gentleman at 39,000 feet was flying and saw 3 rows of lights. 2 sets of rows had 4 lights, one had 3. Then one would blink out and another light would come on. I mean, there is video of it that's been all over the internet. The critics are absolutely hammering this. I want to ask you, as we got about 2 minutes to go here, Bob, pilots are human. They are prone to error, just like you and I are. We're not perfect. Yep. Okay? Yep. But it doesn't matter whether it's an airline pilot, a fighter pilot, a private pilot, a Learjet pilot, cargo pilot, prop plane, helicopter, airliner, jet fighter. They are trained to keep their eye on what's going on in the sky around them.
Well, they definitely want situational awareness so they don't crash the airplane and hurt people.
Well, but that's what I'm talking about. I mean, here we have this pilot who's been flying a long time, comes out with a video saying, I don't know what these lights are. I don't believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that Chinese lanterns can go up to 39,000 feet.
They cannot, because they're like hot air balloons, and they can't go up that high. But I got to tell you, really credible people that do have lots of military observing experience say that this was the perfect pattern for the emission of flares. Now, I don't know that, but people on stock said that, and they told their credentials. So I think there is a possible prosaic explanation, but I'm going to tell you, I have never seen flares at 40,000 feet. Well, and it looked like to me like they were turning around in a circular shift going on and off, but they said that was the kind of pattern you lay down when you do flares. And I just don't know. But that's argument number one. And my other problem is when you drop flares at that height, especially if it's the kind you want to use to illuminate the night, then they didn't last long enough. But the other kind of flares are flares you drop out of the tail of your aircraft, so the missiles go to the flares and don't blow you out of the air. So it could have been those kind, but I just don't know. I'm not an expert on.
Nicole, we got 30 seconds, and we could carry this over when we get back.
Right. I was just going to say Google balloons. Like, what do we know about them? How high do they fly? What are they? Where are they allowed to go?
They don't emit light. These things were emitting light.
That is very true. Perfect. Science Bob, Nicole Sakach, I'm going to get you guys to hold on right there. When we come back, let's open up the hornet's nest that we call ufology when we come back. There's a lot of big news coming out of Washington, D.C. Are you a fan of it? Are you not? I've talked to some very important people about this tonight on both sides of the border. Ufology is being fast-tracked as we speak on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thorne.
Jeffrey DeRuin, thank you.
A long one. Oh, this is fun. Bob, I feel like I haven't seen your face forever.
It's been too long. We should talk on the phone more.
We should. I'm glad everything's going good, though, and you're finally getting to take these trips that you've been talking about.
Oh, my goodness. I haven't gone. Sharon and I haven't gone anywhere since UFO Con 2020. We've been hermits.
Yep. I haven't gone anywhere since June. Except work.
Bob,
and the zoo. I did go to the zoo, but that was only an hour away, so.
How's my buddy Will?
He's doing great. He's ordering parts and has some monstrosity in the basement, so I'm really proud of him. He has a whole laboratory now that's in the basement, a work area / laboratory.
You are building a genius there, Nicole. You really are.
I think I'm being managed by a genius.
My mother did the same, and she would tell you that I was managing her.
Yeah, I just have to feed him and let him do what he does. Keep him alive.
Oh yeah, she put up with me when I was 10 years old, and that was the year I literally got everything.
Yeah,
everything from became a ham radio operator to learn how to tap people's telephones. Oh, I was wild at 10 years old.
You know, last week he was in tears because he's insisting that we get a landline telephone.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Because he needs to hook into it and do all sorts of stuff. And he's so mad at me that I won't get a landline. So he's kind of reverse engineering tech, I would say, at this time. And I've been trying to swing him into the ham radio, and he's kind of a little interested in it. But then I reined it in a little bit. I was like, oh, God, that could be a monster I can't control yet. I need to talk to Bob first.
Yeah, let's talk offline because I have things that I can help with.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't even know where to start with.
It's easy. Stuff, I'm happy to help. Something. I'm happy to help. I have radios he can use, and so just we'll work it out.
Right. He'll be so excited.
In other words, for any of our listeners out there, you know how we all have those 4 or 5 boxes of useless power cords and cables and everything. Send them to Nicole Sakach in Illinois, so that way her genius son Will can literally, start using the copper inside to build the next Will Tesla model or something like that.
He does take out the copper out of wires and manipulates it into stuff. So
I think Grant Cameron keeps thinking he's getting downloads. We'll see.
I don't rule anything out at this point. That's how it is. But Bob, I don't even think I got to finish telling you the story of the first time I went to a medium last June. She channeled William's higher self. He's who came through and decided to chat with me. So that was fun. First time fun. First time for everything.
Yes. We're going to get cable guy Matt to send William some coaxial cable.
I have had to hork this back out of the invention laboratory about 6 times. because
this is my virtual one because I left it at home.
He wants to add it.
I got the real deals right here. Real deals right here.
Yep, I have one of those pieces at home.
William eyeballs it every time he sees it. Like, what's that?
Hi, U.S. Army Combat Medic. How you doing? Welcome back to the show tonight. And welcome back, Pizza Tony. Tony Pizza. Pizza Tony. Works either way for me. Big thank you to Excalibur, Amy, Jeffrey, Jim Bob, Mark, and Nicola for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do here on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. So thank you so much as I lose my voice here. We got about 10 seconds. Don't forget, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We would really appreciate it. And let's rock and roll. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour of Science Bob and Friends is underway here on Spaced Out Radio. Good evening to you all. Maybe good morning, depending where you are on this beautiful planet. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. And real cool, quick update, that if you listen to our YouTube show on the weekends with Lynn Wallington, it will be starting now at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, starting this weekend, and we debut the After Hours show. So right after Lynn and her 2 hours, we got another 3 hours of broadcasting with Big Willie, the fedora-wearing John Hudson, and Gemma Jade, where they talk about the topics of the week. It's going to be fantastic. Starts this weekend on our YouTube channel. Science Bob and Friends continues here as we get into the UFO market. Nicole Sakach, our special guest, as we're hanging on out, talking all things UFO. And before we get going on the UFO topic, Science Bob, we've got a couple of questions for you right off the bat here. Jeffrey is wondering, what are your thoughts on the Chinese discovery of that structure on the dark side of the moon?
That's a great question because I was going to bring it up. So, Jeffrey, great minds think alike. Okay, so I am very, very anxious for the rover to drive over and get a good look at it because, we may drive up to it and it's just some weird rock formation. But right now, it looks like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. So it doesn't look natural at all. It looks like an intelligence-made thing. So I want them to, and they claim they're going to drive over there. And right now, it doesn't look like a rock formation to me. It may very well turn out to be that, but it just looks strange. And good on the Chinese. I don't know whether people are following what's going on with the Chinese Space Agency, but they're taking name and kicking. You know what? They landed a rover on the moon, which has taken this picture. They've landed a rover and a lander with a science experiment on Mars. They are the third country in the world to land a successful thing on Mars and have it work. And it continues to work well every single day. They've gotten a high-speed link, sending stuff back. And they're collecting interesting experiments, and they've even made new discoveries. They did exactly what you would expect a new spacefaring nation to do. They landed in a safe place, and many might think it was boring, but what they were trying to do was succeed. But they've already made new discoveries. So the Chinese are coming on strong, and they're really doing great work. But this thing on the moon, I am paying attention.
Bob, I want to ask you about this before we get Nicole's opinion. Okay, if this is, because they immediately announced they were turning their rover to go towards this structure. Number one, we always have to, not bashing the Chinese government or their space agency or anything, but let's face it, they do have a way of playing tricks on everything, and they might not be the. I got to be careful because I don't want to get kicked off, the air by some spookiness all of a sudden happening around here. Okay, but the point that I'm getting at is this has the potential, if it is real, to really put some egg on NASA's face.
Yeah, especially since, we have another question coming up about Chris Bledsoe, so I won't steal thunder on that. But Hal Povenmire, who was a NASA scientist, Dr. Povenmire, I'm just going to tell you, before he died, he told Chris Bledsoe he saw pictures of structures on the far side of the moon. And that they were being airbrushed out and other things. And we know this woman who has blown the whistle on the fact that she was involved with and saw the airbrushing happen.
Donna Hare.
So I don't have a doubt.
All right. Nicole, what's your thoughts on this structure?
I like that they were like, let's go check it out. That's very promising right there. It wasn't we'll check it out next time, or we'll just stay on our mission, no, it's showing kind of diligence and that curiosity for exploration that I think we can all admire. But yes, this is also hitting home with, I think a few weeks ago, we were just having this conversation concerning the director of NASA's certain comments lately. And we were talking about skeletons in the closet and, looking in your own closet before these situations come up. And I think in that conversation, I also recall us bringing up the Chinese and even the Russians, and somehow me saying something along the lines of, the Russians and the Chinese don't need us for their ufology. Well, here I could say they don't need us for their space program or their ufology. They're full-blown, full speed ahead, whether we like it or not. And whether they give us some sort of truth or a Chinese version of the truth or something, it's coming out. There's more. There's progress. There's people interested in it. There's the whole world kind of going, what?
Nicole, what if we find out that this is actually a structure? Now, people aren't going to believe it because it is the Chinese. And we've been taught Russia bad, China bad. Even though we go and get everything made over in China. All right? But when it comes to their governmental programs, bad, bad, bad. And yet, if this happens to be a structure, how do we confirm this? Because if this is a structure that is old, NASA has egg on their face. They can't all of a sudden go back on their word and say, oh, yeah, we spotted that in 1969 during, one of the lunar missions preparing for the Apollo launches. They can't do that.
I would hope that unifying spirit of humans in space might take hold at some point. We all get along on the International Space Station. We do amazing work together when we put politics aside and go for science and humanity. So, I hope that this wouldn't just be like, yep, it's exactly what they say it is, that it would be diligently checked by whatever means we could. But then that leads to real interesting questions like, is this a new structure? Is it an old structure? Is there any way to tell who built this structure? What was it used for? That's where you get into the juice. So
I just can't imagine, Bob, and we're going to change topics right after this, but I just cannot imagine, Bob, that if this structure proves to be older, I don't think China would miss the opportunity to make NASA look like a bunch of fools. I don't think they would miss.
Well, look, NASA's had the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is a spy satellite for the moon, pointed down at the moon's surface for well over a decade. And if the Chinese throw egg on their face, it'll be, we know that you flew over this. Why didn't you tell us? If I were the Chinese, that's exactly what I'd do. They're upset that everybody in the world plays with us on the International Space Station, but Congress, a couple of decades ago, did exactly what Congress is allowed to do. They passed a law forbidding our agencies for cooperating with the Chinese in space. And so the reason they're not on the International Space Station is our Congress said not only no, but hell no. So, and it has been my experience to date that what the Chinese say in space, they do. And so they have their own space station in orbit right now with astronauts, with Chinese astronauts living on their own space station. The Chinese are here to play.
And that's the other fun one to watch zip through the sky. If you can figure out that that's what you're seeing.
Very true. Aaron wants to know, Bob, what kind of telescope do you own or recommend?
Okay, so I do not recommend this for a beginner because I have the extremely large Celestron 14-inch 1400 Edge HD. Look, it's a $10,000 telescope and its mount, and I have thousands of dollars in cameras and attachments. That is not something to begin with. So I suggest that somebody who wants to begin spends a few $100s on a Dobsonian telescope because it's easy to point. You can find really great things in the sky like galaxies and glowing gases and look at the planets and do those things. And you're not trying to do a really fancy science that requires you to have a thing that'll stay pointed at the star for hours on end without moving, which is the kind of equipment I have. But look, I waited decades to get exactly what I wanted when I retired. So I have a high-end gear.
All right, let's go to another question. Excalibur wants to know, Bob, have you had a chance to bring diagnostics like a Skyhub to the Bledsoe estate, and do you think the entities will allow themselves to be investigated? Is our current philosophy of science sufficient?
Okay, so look, I'm a scientist, so the philosophy and the methods of science can be used to study anything. Now, we have this issue with UAP, and that is it is very difficult to repeat experiments, except in the right kind of places. Okay, so Chris Bledsoe told me back when Skyhub was forming that they could put gear there. We could put gear there. But the technical leader of Skyhub and Chris had a falling out. And so let me leave it there. And Chris has said no to Skyhub, but Skyhub is now defunct. And it has been taken over by former members of Skyhub and is now called Sky 60. And the Sky 60 is the follow-on to Skyhub. And Melinda Leslie has found me a place in Sedona where I can put the Sky 60, and we will talk to Chris about doing it there because the person who did not support Chris Bledsoe in the way Chris wanted is gone and is no longer involved. So Chris has the same kind of handheld night vision camera that I have. I have a slightly fancier one, but it's the same kind that Joel Dodd Griffin gave to Chris, and he takes night vision videos about almost every single night of the orbs. And the reason this night vision camera is so much better than with cell phone is because it can see the local context. It can see the trees. It can see the brush. It can see the pond. It can see all that stuff. At the same time, it's showing the orbs flying around over Chris's head, and he's seeing 3 or 4 of those things a night. I mean, it's just amazing. It's on demand now. Melinda Leslie takes a successful tour group out every night in Sedona, and it's not cheap, and her books are usually full, and they see stuff every blinking night. So there are a group of things that are flying over that exhibit non-ballistic motion. I don't think we understand everything they are, but Chris and Melinda and others think that they are some kind of non-human intelligence, and they act intelligence because they respond to stimuli. You can flash them with a laser, and they'll power up and blink at you. And so there's something going on there, and I want to collect data. I want to collect data with Sky 60, and which is the successor to Sky Hub. And Melinda has already found me a place that's run by the Chamber of Commerce president in Sedona. So, I mean, this is going to be a solid place. And it's going to have all sorts of goodies associated with it, which is it'll make it easy to get data on satellites, military aircraft, helicopters, military helicopters, and the kind of things we're after, so we can both get what we want, but we learn how to exclude what we don't want. So Melinda's place is going to be really a good place for one of these. And Chris is another one. We have to clear this with Chris and make a plan, but Chris won't be, in my opinion, down on doing this.
Wow.
When you were in Sedona, did Melinda by chance take you to Jim Peniston's location that's in Sedona?
No, not that I know of.
The coordinate location that's there?
No.
Yeah, because supposedly some weird stuff happens at that place. And the coordinates are in his book. They're there. Anybody can go to these coordinates if they can make it there. You know, the other ones in Egypt. I forget the other ones right now. But I'm like, Sedona, I could make it there. Let's go on a field trip. Because it almost makes me wonder, because what was the question posed in Dave's chat of the day about hot spots? And I said the better question is how are these hot spots all connected? So it's like, is there like some sort of portal or vortex that is Sedona, not just a specific spot, or maybe a specific spot, but the area.
Tom Dongo claims there's multiple places with portals in and around. Right. So,
then, my love.
I want to collect data.
You know my love of the Rendlesham Forest saga, and it's that time of year. We're coming up on Boxing Day. And so it had me thinking, Sedona is somehow linked to all the other locations.
Well, Sharon and I are getting a pull camper, and we're going to go and spend time out there.
Oh, man, they have some fancy ones out now. Get Sharon a good one, Bob.
No, we don't want a monster because we sold a 30-foot long one.
Oh, it doesn't have to be a monster. They all have the toys now.
We want a good one, but I want to be able to pull it with my Ford truck.
Have you seen these ones that have like the invisible ceiling parts so you can lay there and stare at the sky?
No, I'd love that.
Yeah. Check out that. I'll send you something. I was floored.
Great.
What's going on, Dave?
I'm just kind of happy to be here listening to you guys ramble on here. I really do appreciate that. I want to start to turn the tides. We've got about 5 minutes here to go. There's a lot of stuff going on in Washington, D.C. right now. A lot of stuff. And it all revolves around UFOs, the elected officials versus the military-industrial complex. Bob, you got friends on both sides of that little war of words that's going on. Give us a 5-minute synopsis, Bob, on what's happening right now.
Okay, so the last month has seen an explosion in forward motion for what I will euphemistically call the crap that TTSA started, that Mellon and Elizondo have pushed over the finish line with the help of all these military witnesses. And so what's happened is Mellon and Elizondo and TTSA, Semivan, and others have arranged for briefings for intelligence committees and armed services committees in the House and the Senate. And the things they saw, the things they heard, the things they were told stirred them up. And so the Pentagon has been able to deflect since the 1940s everything that they can see, hear, and know about whatever is going on in the skies, including the absolutely ludicrous, ridiculous, insane cover-up of things flying over our missile silos and shutting them down or turning them on. I mean, come on. If they can turn them on and fire them, they can start a nuclear war and wipe out the earth. Now, maybe they're warning us not to do it, but I'm just going to tell you. The people in Congress, they got fired up. And let me tell you how fired up they got. The Deputy Secretary for Defense started an organization in a command from the Secretary of Defense's office for it to be run in the old office that Lou Elizondo worked in and that Chris Mellon was on a controller of when he was in the Pentagon. But it was not ideal. There was going to be no reporting to Congress, the elected people of the United States, no reporting to the public, and Kristen Gillibrand and a person in the House and the senator from Florida, they got together and made an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, and what they did was take a sledgehammer to the Pentagon cover-up. And it stated explicitly, thou shalt do this. You will do this. You will tell us this. You will come to Congress. We'll put your ass under oath, and you're going to tell us the truth, or you're going to go to jail. I mean, they've really lowered the bloom on them. Now, there's lots of things in this, and it has not yet passed the Senate, but it's common language shared by the House and the Senate. The House has passed it, and the Senate is going to vote on it soon.
Bob, how often does it happen where a bipartisan law of something this serious actually gets enacted?
Well, so for the National Defense Authorization Act and the enabling legislation for the intelligence community, every single year. So there's always arguments about the add-ons. Like, let me give you an example. Kirsten Gillibrand wanted to change the way court-martials of sexual offenses and sexual assaults and other things were done inside the military. And she wanted it changed, and she can't get it changed. It won't be in this bill. So there's arguments, but the overall big stuff, there's always agreement, and they rarely play politics with it.
Nicole.
I was just going to ask Bob real quick, like, if I was remembering correctly, like, these players in this bill, though, were they all former or current members of the Senate Intelligence Committee that are
or armed services?
Gotcha.
And some of them both.
So, I mean, that kind of bipartisan working together because they're on committees like that and stuff.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham's the sponsor of the Senate stuff, and he's on both. And has been on both. He may not be on both now, but he has been on both. But they move. The people that get on these kinds of committees, the really, really important committees, they regularly stay there for years, and they move back and forth to bring different perspectives.
You know, I've got to pause myself because I have to go get a different notebook that has different notes in it. So I'll be right back.
Well, good timing because you just couldn't have waited like 30 seconds. We would have gone to break.
I'll wait then. I'll wait. I'm sorry. I'm really excited because I'm on to something here.
Well, we want to hear what
Bob's going to help me.
We want to hear what that is all about and more because we are going to continue this all-important talk in Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio. What is happening between the Pentagon and the elected officials in Washington, D.C.? Did the elected officials actually take a bite out of the military-industrial complex regarding UFOs? Did that happen? Did it not? Is it all the smoke screen? Where's Elizondo? Where's Mellon? Where's all the big boys and girls when it comes to playing with the UFO toys? And what will you, the public, get? We will discuss it all next on Spaced Out Radio with Science Bob, Dr. Bob McGwier, and Nicole Sakach, researcher and author, and sometimes good cook on Spaced Out Radio's Hour Number 2 next. All right, we're clear.
That was awesome. I'll be right back.
No problem. Sometimes good cook. There's a little Canadian humor there for you. Little Canadian humor. Uh-oh, Dale's making the call right there. I am Chad Smith. Bob is Chad Smith. Dale, your mustache is Chad Smith. My twin chin hair to yours in your photo is Chad Smith. We are all Chad Smith. Hi, Cat Chaser. Thank you for the super chat. Awesome, Cat Chaser. Thank you all with a beautiful super sticker right there of a fox going number one. Number one.
Who's number one?
Apparently, Cat Chaser's super sticker fox says that she's number one.
What's up, Cat?
Ghost Dragon, thank you for that great comment. Says, been listening and watching for many moons now. I have to say SOR gives me the best stuff to research. Really appreciate that. And yes, Uncle Dale, that is Chad Smith on your face right now. That little chin hair right there. I copied that from you, Uncle Dale. Brazelhoff, how you doing? And Mr. Moocher, welcome back to the show. Been a while. Good to have you here. Felipe. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'll ask that now or two, Felipe. That's a great question.
These are my professional notes written on this brown bag right here. Just saying. I woke up in the middle of the night and this is what I was thinking about and what I had to write down. And then Bob, you're the perfect guy to ask. So I've been digging into to DARPA and the Jason scientists.
Sure.
And so now I've kind of come across that the Jason scientists don't necessarily advise DARPA anymore in the same respect that they once did. And now
what they do is the Defense Science Board.
Right. So the Defense Science Board, and this is what I wanted you to clarify, or maybe I imagined it in a meditative state. But so the Defense Science Board is made up of individual and full-time defense contractors, not academics. And
not true. It has academics in it.
Okay, so they can be defense contractors / academics.
Yes.
But since these people create the system and the weapons and advise DARPA on when they should use it or what they have available and how they could use it. Walk me through that. How, to me, it sounds like the the chef gets to eat all the cookies. If that makes sense.
It's a defense thing. So the chef and the people in the the cafeteria, the Pentagon, they do get to eat all of it.
So they're advising themselves.
It's their board.
They get to hire the contractors that advise them.
The Defense Science Board, they can run projects, but they also advise the Pentagon and all of the scientific and research labs that work for the Pentagon the things they should look into.
So how are they better or worse than the Jason scientists advising DARPA?
Okay, so the Jason scientists work on really, really hard problems, but they're not going to take something and go weaponize it and put it in the field. The Defense Science Board can do that regularly.
So they've cut out the Jason scientists.
No, the Jason scientists work on hard problems that there may be no answer to.
So they're still a part of the equation.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Not the only advisors to DARPA anymore.
But they also work for other members of the intelligence community, not just the Pentagon.
That's so cool. I think that is I don't know, that's like a cool secret scientist club.
It is a cool secret scientist.
I know. I love it.
All right, guys, we have just under 45 seconds here. I want to say hello to Valerie McCarthy. Welcome to our chat room for the first time. Jason William, good to see you. Night Gazer, thanks for coming on in. Who else has joined us here? There's a call from Cat Chaser for El Ovni Volador. Don't know if he'll make an appearance tonight. I got him locked up in the basement closet. Brazelhoff, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. And thank you so much to Cat Chaser, Ghost Dragon, Marty, Donna, Melinda, Excalipurful, Amy, Jeffrey, Jim Bob, Mark, and Nicola for the amazing super chats. We really do appreciate the love and support. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. And you can do a little Christmas shopping on our website, spacedoutradio.com, or on our YouTube right below if you're on your computer. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Xenomancy. Xenomancy is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. The second week of each month we bring in Dr. Bob McGwier. Science Bob and Friends is the special that we call it, where we get into the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything paranormal and supernatural. We skip the woo, usually, but sometimes it sneaks in. Dr. Bob McGwier, welcome back, and our special guest, Nicole Sakach, researcher and author. Let's start off with a question from Walker down in Australia. Question for Bob. Do you still hold to the theory that something big is coming, mass sighting or similar, and the U.S. government knows about it, Bob?
Okay, so this is my theory based on the behavior of the United States government for the last 75 years. Is I just can't understand why they would behave so badly for so long and just hide stuff for so long without really telling us stuff about it, unless they have something to fear, because they operate on paranoia and fear because that's their job. And so I'm talking about the Pentagon and the intelligence community covering this stuff up. I don't think people look enough at the Department of the Defense Intelligence Agency and enough at the National Reconnaissance Office or the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of Energy for all the things they do and are involved in. But I just think that something big is being covered up for some reason. And it feels like we found something, they told us something, we don't like what they told us, and they're covering it up because they fear it will cause a panic and our economy will collapse, kind of thing.
I still believe, point blank, that the United States government was contacted or grabbed a signal and was able to figure out or hear from the aliens themselves that they are on their way and a date was set. Because none of it makes sense. There's no need after 70 years of cover-ups for the TTSA to come out and say, we're going to help bring disclosure to light. I mean, obviously that fell and failed, but they still got a lot of information out. All right? And now the way the government has jumped on board with this, something happened. Something. They'll never tell us. They want it to be a surprise, But, Nicole, your thoughts?
Ooh, the last time I got into this, it got a little heated with me and Steve Bassett. I think I was saying something along the lines of they might be afraid that China's doing it. China's going to go ahead and disclose, or the Russians are going to disclose that somebody else is going to do it, because no matter what we think here in the States, ufology is not ours. It's a global situation. And I don't like pitting us against them, saying they're going to do it, bad them, good us, we got to do it first. But I say that because I am following ICER right now and what ICER's doing. And I hope I'm going to talk to Don Schmidt again sometime soon for the first of the year about it. But just knowing their history and the Chinese involvement in that, I mean, it sounds like they're pretty flipping serious about getting to the bottom of this. Serious enough to start an international coalition of ufologists with Russians and people from the United States and how many other countries. I mean, this is amazing. And they're working towards putting this before the United Nations. That's awesome. That's progress. That is saying something. The rest of the world isn't necessarily waiting for the United States to open their ufology files because they have their own. They do. So maybe that's the big rush. They want to be first. They want to get the first piece of pie, not the second piece of pie.
All right. Well, let's go. No, and Nicole, I think you're making complete sense.
I braced. I didn't know if I was going to get...
No, I think you were making complete sense, and that goes along the same lines of what I'm saying and what Bob is saying. Yeah. You know, the U.S. has to be number one. They have to be number one in everything. There is a lot of bragging rights over the last 150 years where the United States has been the police service of the world. All right, that's why they spend more on military annually than the next 27, 28 countries combined.
It could be an ally of ours that discloses. I mean, France has kind of been leading this charge for a while now, almost goading our Pentagon. I mean, honestly, I think that's what the whole Comita report.
But who's going to take France seriously?
That was like a direct posturing to our Pentagon, though, if I'm understanding it correctly.
But who's going to take France seriously? You know, they
haven't
won a war since like 1400.
You know why you should take the French seriously? Because when they mean business, they chop off heads. So pay attention.
Yes. France's
invented a new way to chop off heads.
France's military is much like their hockey program. They can't hit worth crap.
I mean, you can call American French fries all you want. They're still French fries, even if they didn't come from France. So I love you, France.
All right, let's get to another question here from our audience. Johnny Music is asking, what if a country like Iran came out of the blue and disclosed with craft and bodies first and beat everyone else to the punch? Bob?
Well, that'd stir the pot. Yeah, that would be a big pot stirrer. But it would be like your other question. People in the United States would likely think that they were faking it, unless they gave us access so that we could look at it, and they're not going to do that.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if they found that top piece of the pyramid in some hidden chamber that Jim Peniston discovered? Oh, that would be fun. Egypt could announce then. Egypt can disclose. I'm game. Doesn't have to be. Yep. I'll jump on that bandwagon.
It does not have to be. It does not have to be the United States. But we know from released records that Russia, and when they were in the Soviet Union, had a massive program to try to do reverse engineering. I mean, the Black Vault has been releasing all sorts of stuff about this. And look, China wants us away from them, but Russia's amassing on Ukraine's border. They're not friendly with anybody except for their own best interests. And if they had UFOs that ran ring around our aircraft and ships, they'd use them.
I think this is the phenomenon making us all play nice. It's that.
I think this is the phenomenon getting us to race to see who can beat the crap out of the other one first. I mean, there are two ways to look at this.
It is kind of unifying towards the same end goal.
If one country that's an adversary of others gets control of this stuff first, it will not be used in a friendly manner unless ET forces it, should they exist.
The phenomenon forces it.
Yeah, whatever you want to call them. These are all euphemisms for whatever this phenomenon is.
What did I say the other day? That I'm no longer calling myself a ufologist. I'm calling myself a black techologist. And that we should all start reporting our UFO sightings to any database outside the United States and protest till they pass the amendment.
Yeah, I think the NDAA is going to be a big deal. And there was someone asked a question. Will all the data come out all immediate? Well, the NDAA has in it that the United States government et al. Reporting to the Pentagon and the National Intelligence Directorate, all artifacts and everything that they've learned from these artifacts will be told to Congress, and some form of will be reported to the public. And it also sets up reverse engineering. I mean, this NDAA thing, it's amazing.
Well, let's get a little bit deeper into it, because I do know we have more questions coming from our audience, but I want to break this down so people kind of understand what we are talking about here. Bob, you alluded to it. Now, there's a number of posts regarding these stories from Tim McMillan. D. Dean Johnson had a great article on it as well about this entire phenomena and what is happening. I mean, we are seeing Gillibrand, Rubio, Gallego in the Senate, Congress. We see people like Tim Burchett who are coming out and really hammering home the fact that they want to know, and the public to know, about what is happening with the UAPs that are flying in American skies, and not just over military craft, and not just since 2004 with the Nimitz incident. How is this going to be able to open up to the public, knowing that there are so many secrets that probably still need to be kept?
Well, they force reporting. It forces reporting to the United States elected representatives on both the Intelligence and the Armed Services Committee. And basically they've said, look, we are elected by the people of the United States. We are part of your government, and you answer to the civilian government. And we want you to start treating these UAP as serious business. Get your head out of your butt, get your act together, and get a grip on this problem, and expect to come before Congress and sworn in under oath and be held accountable for what you're doing. And they've told them specifically that they have got to figure out what's going on over the military exclusive airspaces and et cetera. But we're having pilots that are flying commercial airlines that are seeing this stuff all the time. We got to treat that stuff seriously too. So I think it's going to wind up being a massive collection thing. And one more thing, Chris Mellon wrote a blog on the TTSA website lambasting the United States government for having the most exquisite sensors in the world, but not sharing all the data so that they could all be collated and figure out what each and every one of them show about unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs. And we don't put transmedium, go into the water and come out of the water, enter our atmosphere and go out into space. But we have sensors that can do all that, but nobody puts all that data together. The NDAA mandates that they do that, put that data together. And you can tell this came right from Mellon's blog.
But from what we're hearing, Bob, that Chris Mellon and Luis Elizondo so far have been cut out, along with the SCU, along with the Galileo project, from studying.
Yeah, well, the Pentagon does not want SCU, Galileo, Mellon, and Elizondo, who have joined the Galileo project, involved in advising this group. But the excuse is they don't want these crazy scientists having access to this data. But everyone that was involved in that advisory committee had to have a security clearance and sign NDAs to be able to see stuff. So that's just BS. They wanted the people they didn't like cut out. And they got it. The one concession Congress made was to cut these external advisors out.
Nicole, what's your thoughts on that?
As long as there's still a way that the public is informed and there's accountability. I mean, what was I saying to you a few nights ago on the phone? The only compromise that's worth a crap is when everybody's unhappy in the end. I mean, neither side of this is going to be happy, and then that's where we're going to make progress. So I don't want to say we need to take what we can get, but this is big, whether Lou and Mellon are involved in it or not, and Galileo. And I'm all for Galileo until they start talking strictly artifacts. And then it worries me because that makes it sound like they're still looking out there and not here. So are they on our side or not? So to me, that's wishy-washy territory that politicians work best in.
Well, from what I heard today, and I had a conversation with Ross Coulthart for about 25 minutes today, the investigative journalist. Yeah, look at old Davey dropping a bomb there, right? And he was actually saying point blank that Elizondo and Mellon really were hoping to be the go-to guys with this new project for this new Gillibrand-Rubio amendment. And to be cut out, they are a little bit miffed about this right now because, and I'm assuming here from reading between the lines, and Bob knows and Nicole both know I'm pretty good at reading between the lines here. I think the reason is we're probably going to see new faces be the faces of the franchise of this moving forward, whether it's some elected official or somebody else who steps out of the secretive woodworks. Bob, your thoughts?
Okay, so I do know the following to be a fact. Danny Sheehan is still in there pitching with the Inspector General, and the Inspector General is still investigating their claims. So that's leverage. So they have leverage. Mellon doesn't need Danny Sheehan. I'm assuming they're sharing notes because the Mellon family has their own lawyers who know how to deal with inspector generals at the Pentagon. So I think that Mellon and Elizondo still have aces up their sleeve to play to get involved, and we'll just have to see how it washes out. But right now, they are not going to be in this advisory committee through the Galileo project because that advisory committee is not in the bill.
This is where it gets a little bit dangerous on what to cover up, Nicole.
Well, I mean, those of us in ufology long enough have taken plenty of right hooks. And, you're not always happy about it, but you just keep on doing what you're doing. And they have plans. They have agendas. Just because they don't get to, be the figurehead of something, I don't think that means they're quitting or anything, like their dedication or fortitude is any less. But, yeah, I mean, everybody wants to be the captain of the team, but there's still other players that are valuable. It'll be all right.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. I disagree with you. I think Mellon and Elizondo are have every right to be upset in regards to this.
No, I do too. I'm just saying this stuff happens. They should be upset, but sometimes you have to watch your baby bird fly too. So this might be one of those moments for him.
True. All right, let's get to another question.
I mean, look, I want to point out that Sean Cahill was blowing horns and popping champagne corks on Twitter all day today.
Of course he was. And he didn't return my phone call. So Cahill, you sexy man with great hair and beard, I'm going to tell you right now, return my phone call, man. Return my phone call.
That's what happens when you pop champagne. You forget how to operate cell phones.
Oh, I hear you. Now, in regards to a follow-up from John's question earlier about Iran, he's saying, but what if Iran gave their information to Russia first? Or if, yes, Egypt found non-human stuff buried deep below the ground?
Well, Egypt's our ally, and they've signed a peace treaty with Israel. So, I mean, and we give them lots of military aid. But if Iran gave stuff to Russia, we'd be angry.
G. West, as we got about 2 minutes to go here, is asking, if the structure on the moon turns out to be something intelligently made, what happens next? Does China get to claim it, or do we see a moon race?
Well, China gets to say they saw it first, but if the United States lands next to it, they're going to grab it and run.
They don't even have a rocket.
No, wait, though. Now, isn't there some sort of space agreement that nobody can lay ownership to anything?
There's a treaty.
Right. Just because we put the flag on the moon doesn't mean it's part of the United States kind of thing. It's all for science and humanity and glory.
Well, when we planted the flag in the moon, we made a declaration. We came for all mankind.
Right. So,
not to claim it, but to celebrate that people had gotten on the moon.
Right.
And then Neil and Buzz read that when they got out of the capsule.
Sometimes people get confused, though. They confuse it with Columbus staking the flag. This is mine. It's not that way in space. Not yet. Not yet.
A minute to go here, Max Ritchie. Do either of you believe the ETs have an assertive voice here?
We keep hearing rumors that this assertive voice exists and has been used, but I have no personal experience. All I'm hearing is rumors.
Nicole?
I think it's an enduring voice that you must listen for, and it gives us messages of no nukes, love yourself, love your neighbor, take care of your planet, don't make us intervene. And yeah, on that level,
my favorite story is the assertive voice was challenged, and the assertive voice said, "Go look out the window, and I'll show you." And a spaceship showed up. So right. I believe that there are believers inside the government, and now I don't know what all they've been told.
All right, guys.
I think of moments. Oh, sorry, Nicole, I was going to bring up.
Unfortunately, I got to cut you off right there. We'll continue that thought when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. Nicole Sakach, our special guest tonight on Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier. UFO talk all night long. We're probably going to go right to the end of the show with this one, because I know in about an hour's time, the fedora-wearing John Hudson's going to have some questions as well. Spaced Out Radio continues on this all-important topic tonight on the mighty SOR. All right.
We're adding to the entertainment online.
We're clear. Woo!
I couldn't stop. And I was like...
You were on a roll.
Yeah. On a roll. Roll call.
Call me Butter.
All right.
Because I'm on a roll.
That's terrible.
Oh, that's awful, Nicole.
That was terrible.
Hey, man, way back in the day when I was a manager of some restaurants in Chicago, like, we had a manager that we called Butters because he was always on a roll. That was like his nickname. I loved it. All
right.
It's a perfect kitchen joke.
When my mother used to get on a roll like that and complaining about everything, I would. This was back in the mid '90s, 2000s. I would play Limp Bizkit's "Rollin' for her." All right, Jonathan Davies, how you doing? Good to have you here. And Looney, nice to see you. And who else do we have here? Ufologist.
I like those messages, like, generationally, like, when you talk to enough experiencers, though, like, there are some definite ones that come through. And
here's a little bit of a tidbit from my conversation. Most of my conversation with Ross Coulthard today, we kept private, but he was telling me that there was a scientist who's been very blatant about the fact that he doesn't believe that people have flown ships, or we don't. He believes that we've reverse engineered ships, but doesn't believe that we have learned the capability of it, of how to fly them. And I said that's because, and we got into this whole great discussion. I said that's because the U.S. government, along with what's happening at places like Skinwalker Ranch, isn't bringing in the experiencers who already know how to do it. And he's like, do you really buy that? I said, Ross, in my town a couple of years ago, I met a 12-year-old girl who flew the ship. And
ask Grant Cameron how many people he knows that have flown the ship.
Well, Grant's name came up. Up in that.
We've interviewed over 100 people that have flown the craft, I think.
I spent 2 days with one.
But think about it here, and us three have talked about it before on this show and privately more so. But for our listeners listening right now, the big thing that a lot of these investigative groups are doing, whether it's Robert Bigelow, whether it's Skinwalker Ranch and Brandon Fugel, or whether it's the government, they are not testing experiencers with the phenomena. They don't, because they don't want to take that path for some reason. They don't want to go down that road. And that is the biggest mistake that they are making, is they're taking, well, these people say that they can fly the ships. Well, our technology and our numbers show that it's impossible. These people are lying. Well, have you tried the people? No, we don't need to. We don't need to. Our data shows different.
It's all about control. They do not want to have someone who has a mental capacity to engage with the technology. They want to be able to walk up to it and dial a knob and get it to where it will go. And the technology apparently doesn't work that way. Well, and so they're holding out.
But that's the whole.
You know what I think is interesting. Of the few that I have spoken with that have flown the craft, I haven't spoken with anybody who has automatically known how to fly it. There's always been some sort of like shown how, or a training aspect to it, or a level they have to go through to get to be able to sync in with a craft. Like, it's never really what people think it's going to be. Like, oh yeah, I hopped into this fighter jet and just took off. Like, no.
No, I appreciate that.
I do too, but I think that's where you need to speak with experiencers.
100%,
like,
Nicole.
It's just
100%. Like, Ross asked me, he goes, what did the little girl tell you about it? I said she sat in a chair and that craft just went everywhere she wanted to go. It came from her mind. And
I love the kid stories.
And we got 27 seconds. Big thank you to Smithy, G West ×2, Walker, Cat Chaser, Ghost Dragon, Marty, Donna, Melinda, Excalibur, Amy, Jeff, Jim Bob, Mark, and Nicola for the amazing super chats. Remember to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. We got swag for sale on our YouTube channel as well as our website, and we're going to continue on with the second half of the show coming up right now. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Dr. Bob McGuire's special monthly feature called Science Bob and Friends. We're talking UFOs all night long with special guest Nicole Sakach, author and researcher. Welcome back, guys.
I'm the friend.
Always good to see Nicole.
All right, let's continue on.
Well, you too, Dave, I guess.
Well, you know, I mean, now that people actually know that I do have cheeks and a chin after shaving my beard and mustache, but that's okay. That's all right. Ghost Dragon has a question here. We want to know that UFOs, sightings, and encounters pick up, we know that UFO sightings and encounters pick up during major Earth events like wars and so on. I think there's something bigger coming, and they are here to observe it. What are your folks' thoughts? Nicole, let's start with you.
I'm really not a doomsdayist. I think it's always the end of the world somewhere. And really, I don't think there is like an uptick for any specific reason. And I'll say that, like I always say with these kind of statistic questions, is buy Cheryl and Linda Costa's Pink Book, state by state, down to the county, and you will really see some statistics. I mean, it's just awesome. And then you'll see that, yeah, there's spikes here and there, but it's not like, ooh, there's just like, you know, 1 million a day now, or, you know, and there wasn't 5 years ago. Like, I think the raise is awareness. There's more people than ever watching, and there's better ways to report, more places to report to, and we're growing in numbers all the time. So more data, more people, more statistics. Cheryl and Linda, I don't think will write any more books. I think they're done with this 2-part masterpiece, and I think they're about to release state-by-state books, which is so exciting. So buy your state. Buy the next state over, buy a couple states, travel to some states, buy their books. It'll be fun.
All right, Bob.
Well, Cheryl's about to go into full-blown woo.
Cheryl and Linda are moving to Ohio. There's big stuff going on. And she's on billboards like all over the UK right now. Like, this is serious stuff. So,
Major woo.
I'm excited.
All right,
Woo.
Pam is asking, don't you just think that they'll just label almost everything eyes only?
No, because the NDAA does not allow it. If it passes.
Well, we're going to find out. All right.
Yep.
John is wondering, what do Nicole and Bob think, that's you two, by the way, about if the millions of mysteriously missing people here that happen yearly globally have a direct correlation to the non-humans that are here? Too much panic? This is David Paulides type stuff.
It is David Paulides, and I'm just telling you, David Paulides started his kind of YouTube-ish writing about stuff career looking at Bigfoot, and I believe he believes the phenomenon is kidnapping people. And do I think that if we have like ironclad proof the phenomenon is kidnapping people, you dadgum tootin', there'll be a panic.
Well, that's good Southern talk right there, Bob.
There you go.
I appreciate that. Nicole, your thoughts?
Well, I can't think of any cases where somebody has reported somebody as abducted by aliens and they haven't been returned. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Travis Walton was returned, like, and he was gone forever. Mark Sims' whole experience was like 18 days or something like that. So, I mean, that's a long experience, but I don't think he says he was taken anywhere. So this whole like abductees going missing and never coming back, I mean, I don't really like to go to the doom and gloom nefariousness of humanity, but there are lots of terrible stuff that happen to people and women and children. And I mean, we've seen it on the news and headlines and trafficking of people. And a lot of us don't want to believe that stuff's going on, but it is going on.
Big time. It's
big,
a huge
big time. And it's so disgusting, the news doesn't want to touch it. So
I hear you there.
Interstate 10 and Interstate 20 were the human trafficking pipelines across the United States until a major intervention, and it just slowed it down. It didn't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
G. West says, sorry for bringing up the moon again, but he's curious. Would a private company like SpaceX be able to go claim the structure on the moon that China's just found?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Interesting.
A country cannot claim all territory for itself, but if a company goes and grabs stuff off the moon, it's theirs.
Right. Or if they like set up base camp around the structure, like they kind of control the structure, right?
I do not know how that would work. I am sure that would be fought out in court for years.
Right? Like, I don't know. Like, okay, wild speculation here. The tardigrades got crashed on the moon, right? India crashed the tardigrades. This isn't like tardigrades gone wild and they've like manifested some big moon mound.
Wasn't that the Israelis that crashed the tardigrades?
Was it the Indians or the Israelis?
No, I believe it was the Israelis.
We'll fact check that part later. SOR fact checkers will get that one straight. But there's tardigrades on the moon.
Yes, there is. They accidentally crashed there.
Destroy the ecosystem or disturb life there. Like, they're not that powerful of organisms. I mean, I think they could live, but do they do things like that? Like disturb ecosystems? I don't know. Science Bob?
There is. Yes, and one of my favorite books of all time is First Men in the Moon, where science fiction, but it's kind of really always influenced my thinking that we should be extremely clean when we send stuff to places because we can wreck the ecosystem easily.
Right? Isn't there a Star Trek episode of that too? It's like they open a satellite and then somebody has like the flu and they're like, that was packed 400 years ago. And they're like, germs are strong. Like someday we'll be that cautious, I think, but I don't know. Could there be water on the moon?
There is water on the moon.
So we know tardigrades like love water. So whatever this structure is, could it be somehow be like pushed up from below the surface and we're just like noticing it? Like, I don't know.
Well, the moon is full of volcanic tube tunnels. So stuff can stay down there. The natural places for us to build bases on the moon and the Mars is inside these tunnels. They close them off and fill them full of air and whatever.
Right. I've read all of that research. It's pretty interesting and seen some like sketches of some of the pods that they could build in these tunnels. It's pretty impressive. And Bigelow, if I'm remembering correctly, has come up with all sorts of habitable pod-like habitats, hasn't he?
He is the master of inflatable pods for space work. But I'm trying to figure out if Bigelow Aerospace is even in operation now. I just don't know. He shut them down last year, but I don't know that he started back up.
Right, and see, I didn't know if they shut down or if they just had massive layoff of some sort. So
he shut down his entire operation, told everybody, I don't know when, if ever, you're coming back. And I don't know if they started back. And if they did, could they find any of these aerospace engineers? I mean, surely people are looking and watching and seeing the explosion of space activity all over the world. Bigelow would have trouble keeping them.
So has he made the inflatable go to the near-death other side pod yet?
He's made the inflatable pod, which is put in a space station.
I know, but he's all into near-death studies now.
Yeah, I know he is, and I think he has the answers he wants. So I just don't know what he's going to do with this pod stuff. It's really good tech, and I hope he pursues it.
We need the inflatable pod to go to the in-between and back.
We shall see. All right, let's continue on here. Nikki wants to know, as the deep and black ops go regarding ETs, wouldn't the U.S. government create deeper, more hidden black op programs so that the docs known, I don't know what WI means, the black ops, that those docs are never revealed to Congress?
Well, Congress passes a law and says, screw you, you can't do that. I mean, that's what they're doing. And the document says all artifacts you know about or have access to, you're going to tell us about it, and you're going to tell us every 6 months from now on.
They have been known to play this game where they'll run an operation, and if parts of it are discovered, they'll change the name, or they will temporarily shut it down and then restart it under a new name. And then they'll have that fallback of saying, oh, well, you know, that was shut down or we're not working on it and blah, blah, blah. So they do pull sneaky stuff like that often.
Okay.
They will call people. They're going to call people in front of Congress and make them testify under oath. Mm-hmm. They will find them.
Okay. What about the past, though, Bob? How does this affect the past? Whether it's Roswell, whether it's alleged aliens at Area 51 or Wright-Patterson or Bob Lazar's story of 9 craft that had been recovered from crash retrieval sitting at S4. You know, how does this affect the history?
The legislation says artifacts without a date on it. So it means back to the beginning of human history. I
see where you're going with that, though, Dave, and it's almost like when we compare what we're seeing in ufology to like the epicness of living in biblical times, we might be seeing this whole shift of like new book, old book, or like, you know, this definite mark of here's old ufology, kind of like a history, the beginning, but then from this point on, this is how serious we take it, and, you know, New Testament it.
That's what I'm getting at. Because, I mean, like I've said on the show before, this UFO Pandora's box can be very scary for the United States government with what they know. It could lead to a lot of lawsuits, especially if it were to ever come out that there are government agencies out there who know who's being taken. I know that, or know for a fact that people are being taken. Absolutely.
And they entered into some kind of agreement. If that happened under the Eisenhower administration, good grief.
See, stuff like that can't come out, Bob. Maybe 300-400 years from now, when we're all pushing daisies for a long time. But for right now, that can't come out. And
that's the Old Testament wrathful God that wants you to kill your firstborn child and stuff. Nope.
All right.
You gotta leave that out.
Jonathan in the UK is asking, classified is still classified astro or not? What forces them to declassify things for a public report? Are they going to change the rules on classification?
I think there's going to be some report. The report from Congress will be redacted and given some stuff to the public. But I don't believe that there is a mandate that everything we know about. Look, I want you to imagine a high government official come out in front of a lectern and said, "We recovered an alien craft in Roswell. Nothing will ever be the same."
Well, I mean, they have to work.
And everything else about it can be classified.
Year one.
Right? All right. Let's go to Australia here, where Walker Dale is asking, how do you all feel about Lou Elizondo's recent comments hinting that our DNA was altered 70,000 years ago by someone? Are we in a petri dish? Bob.
So the science around noticing that something major happened, look, there's arguments, but I think the arguments are pretty good in favor of something happened 70,000 years ago. And people saw really interesting things happening in our atmosphere and on the earth, and that the rate of change of our genetic makeup is way too high, according to these arguments, for it to have been at random. So been randomly happening. So the successful adaptations in our genetic structure have happened too quickly to have been done by natural selection. That's the argument. And so that's an argument. It's a theory, but it's got to be tested. But it sounds like a pretty good theory to me.
I have a side question to that question and your answer. So with what we can do with gene manipulation and CRISPR, once we do that, are there markers that make it evident that somebody has had that happen to them?
Yeah, so if you splice in DNA that was never in anyone's gene before, and there's no other instance except the ones you look at, then you pretty much have got an idea that it was done artificially. So I think that there will be evidence, but will it be signed, this art was done by gray aliens? I doubt it.
Right.
There's
lots of fun drivers with DNA and evolution, though, that scientists are discovering all the time, though, I think.
But look, we've had these stories about hybridization and other things for decades. And the story was always, that's just impossible. But then all of a sudden, two women, brilliant women scientists come up with CRISPR-Cas9, and that argument goes away.
Right.
I can change you while you're an already formed living human being.
Right.
They can manipulate your genetic structure after you're already born.
They could give me green eyes.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We're living in that future I dreamt about as a kid in so many ways, and we still don't have Jetson cars.
We're close.
Close.
We are very, very close. How close, we don't know. Zero Cool is
$100,000.
I thought it was
$100,000 will buy you a Jetson octocopter.
Octocopter. They're only selling 70 of them privately. Just saying. The rest of them are for military use somehow. That'll be fun.
All right.
Yeah, let's talk about John. Let's talk about John Ramirez. So, someone asked earlier, do I take John Ramirez seriously? I have checked, and he was, in fact, working for the places he claims he worked for. Now, in addition to that, John says he's an experiencer, and he's had these experiences, and that's the reason he's talking. I don't have any evidence as to whether or not he was an experiencer or not, because I don't know John. But I do know people who have been in the Central Intelligence Agency who claim that they have had experiences in the bedroom in their house, and they may or may not have been involved with TTSA and know Melinda Leslie. Okay, so people like John Ramirez exist. I do not have any direct personal knowledge of the 3 gigahertz S-band frequency stuff that John Ramirez says, because I haven't seen any of the internal reports that say this. But let me tell you, I dug my 3 gigahertz equipment out of my boxes the other day, and I took my 100 megahertz to 6 gigahertz sensory apparatus with me to Melinda, and it was just cloudy and we couldn't do any observing, because what I was wanting to do was correlate these emissions with these things that fly over and flash. And I was hoping to see a flash of 3 gigahertz or thereabouts when the thing responded to the laser light. But we just didn't have the opportunity. But I intend to continue doing that.
So cool.
And I will tell everybody, I'm not keeping any secrets like that. If it happens and it works, I will tell everyone and their brother.
Just like that. Bang. Drop it in.
Hang on a minute, and I'll show you the equipment. It's right here next to me.
I'll do it too. How do I do this? I want to do Jimmy Blanchett's frequency too.
Here's Science Bob.
Well, if I can
opening
figure
up
out
the
how
pack.
I hear science happening and
There's
clicking.
science.
I can figure out how to open a case. Yeah, this little gizmo right here. It's a RF detector called an RF Explorer. This one works to 6 gigahertz. You plug in 2 antennas into these ports, and one of them will find Wi-Fi and other things, so you can know whether or not you're seeing Wi-Fi interference. And the other one I can tune to anywhere I want up to 6 gigahertz and see if there's an emission. And I was taking this out to be done with around Melinda and all the things she sees, and we just didn't have a chance to do it. But I'm not done. I'm going to go out there and camp for a month or two.
So the theory is, if we see something in the sky, it should register on that.
These pulses are releases of energy, and they are moving by some mechanism. And so if it's true that they are doing space-time metric engineering to move their craft,
so what about
then there will be radiation. Then there will be radiation that will show up possibly in RF.
So like inside your house, these little orbs that come and visit people, if they emit something, it should register on this.
So those things are black bodies, and they have a temperature. And we know how much frequency energy is at all the frequencies given the temperature. So and some of it's RF, Some of it will be infrared. Some of it will be visible. Some of it will be UV. And the ratios of the different frequencies that are present changes with the temperature. So, I mean, there's all sorts of science to be done by looking for these emanations.
All right. You know, I talked to a bunch of orb people that have them come visiting, and that one flew out of my mouth on the panel we had. So I'm gonna start playing with this. I've needed a good in the field kind of thing I can test, because
Lori Wagner really wants me to come out to California and go to this place where people are seeing orbs all over the place. I'm going to try to do it.
All right. On that note, I'm going to take control here, cutting off Nicole again for the third half hour. Sorry about that, Nicole. I do feel bad. All right. We do have more questions from our audience. We got about an hour to go here, talking UFOs all night long on Spaced Out Radio. Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier and special guest Nicole Sakach, who apparently we just like to cut off tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We'll continue with the UFO talk and where this whole story is going when we return for the final hour of the mighty SOR.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio.
I'm still butter.
You're still butter. All right,
still butter.
There's our next question. But Jonathan Gregory, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate you tuning us in and joining our chat room. Holy cow, there he is, everyone. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. Splash of lime. He's feeling rebellious tonight. 2 splashes of lime.
Oh.
Holy cow. That's the way he rolls.
Take it easy.
That's the way he rolls right there.
Little lime goes a long way.
Well, I can say this. Chad Smith is trying to buy his way into Dave Scotland right there. That's why he's a powerful, powerful man, Chad Smith.
Who's the Dave Scott imposter? That's Sonny, right?
That's Sonny. Still not impressed with that.
Good.
Still not impressed with that.
Still so good. The side by side of you guys.
It was a dirty rat bastard move on his part. It was a dirty rat bastard move. That's all I'm saying. Can't make up stuff like that.
Dirty rat bastard.
So, Bob, who do you have coming up, like in the new year, for Science Bob and Friends? Are you going to do some?
I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I will.
Yeah. Oh, you had some good ones over this last year. Who's all been on?
Really have.
I really liked. And
I still want to promote Dave Beatty and Bob Davis's documentary, but we got to get them on the air.
John Alexander was one of my most enjoyed of your shows over the last year.
The thing that I enjoy most about it is I didn't take him through the path he thought I was going to take him. And so we tweaked him and got him stirred up and cranky, and it was great. I loved every second of that.
Oh, my God.
He didn't yell at me. That's the big thing. He didn't yell at me.
No, he did not yell at Dave, but he grumped at me. It was good. I loved it.
What Lee Spiegel, like, he talks about John Alexander in such these awesome ways. He's like, he's exactly who you need with you for anything ever. And I would just love to sit around and chat with him about his whole life. Just like, not
he shows up everywhere. He's on the Skinwalker Ranch show as a regular now.
He's seen a lot. That's just, I don't know, just, to walk in his shoes, that'd be great. Or to do like a Vulcan mind meld.
My guess is the guy knows some secrets.
I would say that.
Here's another sciencey offshoot for you that maybe we can continue later. But have you been following Mr. Jack Sarfati lately?
A little bit.
Yeah.
He certainly took a whack at multiple people about the anti-gravity drive.
Right. He
poked at Sonny White and he promoted him. But look, I think Sonny White has got his claim wrong.
Well, what I've noticed about his mouth is he usually doesn't pop it off when he's wrong about things concerning theoretical physics.
Except, I'm familiar with the details and a lot of the actual work and so forth dealing with Einstein's field equations. And in order for you to make one of those wormholes, you have to have a certain amount of energy and mass. Mm-hmm. And you have to have negative energy and negative mass and so forth. And it will require more than Sonny can just get to show up at random to make a warp drive. So I don't believe he has, and he's misinterpreting what he sees. Because I can calculate the scale of energy he would have to have. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I don't believe I am.
So do you think
let me put it to you this before you go on, and please go on, but because you asked me about Sarfati, I popped off at Sarfati and told him why he was wrong, and he did not come back and tell me I was an idiot. And he does when he thinks he's right.
Well, when he does, right, and when he doesn't want to listen to you, or I mean, he says a lot of fun things. Like,
and he did not respond when I told him why he and Sonny were wrong.
There's lots of responses that he gives.
All right, guys.
When you look at the body, do you think he could build one?
No.
No?
No, I don't.
Would you give him $1 million to try?
All right, we got to go on the air.
Yeah, Nicole. Can we do a show here, Nicole? You don't mind? Big thank you to Ken, Chad, Walker ×2, Grant, Smithy, G West ×2, Cat Chaser, Ghost Dragon, Marty, Donna, Melinda, Excalibur, Full, Nicola, Mark, Jim, Bob, Jeffrey, and Amy for the amazing super chats. Here we go with hour number 3, everyone. Let's do it.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth, or in some suborbital spaceship. That would be kind of cool. All right. We want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Xenomancy. Xenomancy is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight, so we're going the full distance, talking UFOs, Science Bob and Friends. It's a marathon with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and Nicole Sakach, researcher and author. We're going to continue on with audience questions here regarding the subject, and this one, Bob, we'll start off with you. How long will there be multiple UFO offices? The AOI, MSG, Astro, secret ones? This one's from Jason.
Okay, so Jason, that's a good question. And the National Defense Authorization Act only controls the Defense Department and the parts of the intelligence community that inform and work with the Defense Department. But there are lots of members of the intelligence community and departments that have things to do with space, NASA, etc., that are not part of DOD or the intelligence community. So those places are not covered by this act, and they can still be involved in holding secrets until Congress says, we're sick of you telling lies too, and mandates that they start opening up. But it sounds to me like Bill Nelson has broken the barrier for NASA people to work on UFOs and UAPs. So there will be secret ones, I am certain, but the ones in the Defense Department and the intelligence agencies that serve the Defense Department, they're going to have a rough time keeping them a secret, given the NDAA and its language.
All right. Bob, I want to ask you in regards to this, could we see an influx of a lot of these programs and knowledge and information being shipped off to private agencies or private companies such as Lockheed Martin or Boeing or any companies like that, like we saw with Robert Bigelow?
So the way the bill is constructed, they're going to have to tell about it, things they've had in the past, even if they ship them off to private companies. Now, if they've managed to grab artifacts, the first possession of them was taken by a private company, and all they did was provide security and classified status, then maybe they can pull off some kind of hiding, but it is going to get a lot more difficult. I mean, I'm telling you, Congress, they've had it. They have had it. They have had it with them lying about stuff that goes on all in and around our airplanes. And the stuff that's really scared the crap out of the Navy, the Air Force, etc., are drones. So part of this is because all of these drones that are being flown by our adversaries all over our controlled airspace. So this is partially a response to actual UAP. I know everybody wants to think it's only about that, but these drones that flew all over Colorado and are flying in and around our men and women and all of our equipment and that stuff, they care a lot about it. So that is conflated in this. So it's UFOs and drones are the reason this is being done.
All right, let's move on to another question. Jonathan is asking, how do we track the objects and find the bases? Then what?
Well, that's a great question, John. He always asks great questions. So the Mellon blog, which is now firmly ensconced inside the NDAA amendment, says all of these unbelievable sensors that we have in the ocean, watching our atmosphere and watching the space around the Earth, now must put their sensory stuff together to see what total story they can tell. That'll be huge. And so I am certain that we will, if they are coming, and lots and lots and lots of stories have been told about these coming from outside of the Earth and entering the atmosphere and being detected coming in quickly. Fast walkers, for example, and these infrared radiation satellites detecting them. But that stuff will become married with other sensors like sonar and microphones and buoys and all that other stuff in the ocean. After they enter the atmosphere and go into the ocean, we can correlate, hey, this happened and then this happened. So they probably are connected, and then try and figure out where they go. So that stuff can be done. But it can only be done now that the language of the NDA amendment says that all these sensors have to be talk to each other inside this one office that they're setting up.
Nicole, let's get your opinion. Bases, where are these coming from? You think we'll find out?
I'm thinking back to Kit Green and what he's dug into over the years and he's been asking about what. And it seems like they're concerned with the propulsion of how it can pop in and out. So what's the sensor that detects the popping in and out? And I don't know how we can track down a base even if we can detect when it pops in. So I don't know. And I know there's theories that there might be an underwater base or the Marianas Trench or something in the Pacific, something down by Florida. I don't know. We got underwater stuff. I think if there's a base and we have enough fortitude, we'll find it eventually.
Let me remind people. We know MH370 crashed. We know about where it crashed, and we haven't found it.
It's because it was flown into Diego Garcia.
Shag Harbor. Something went in Shag Harbor.
Diego Garcia, it could not, unless it was refueled in the air, and there's no mechanism for that plane to be refueled in the air, it couldn't reach Diego Garcia.
I'm going to bite.
Unless it landed and refueled.
What was that case Debbie Ziegelmeyer was telling you about with the UFO that crashed in the water, and then it was seen that another UFO came down and was helping repair it underwater? That one blows my mind.
That's a great one. Boy, would I love to see evidence of that.
Wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all? All right, let's continue on here. Nikki has a question. If governments admit because of being forced to reveal, wouldn't those governments be wiped out financially because of mass class action lawsuits and where those governments create a unified one global government, Bob?
So if all the government does is say, yeah, we know that there's stuff happening, but they don't ever speak of, admit, own up to all of the bad things they did to keep a secret, then the answer is they probably won't be sued. But if they give out specific cases and say this was real and we've known it all along, and people had their lives ruined for telling about it, I think that there will be massive lawsuits. Opening this up is a can of worms.
There have been the few cases out there where you have like John Burroughs, or you have the ladies from, Cash and Landrum, where there was some sort of admittance of, yes, something has happened to these people. But I think like in the case of Burroughs, like it was kind of like, yes, something happened. Here's your VA benefits so you can get help and treatment and coverage and whatever. But it was kind of like, we'll let you get treated, but we're not going to say we were the cause or that was the cause, but something happened. It's always something like that. And Cash and Landrum, I think they took their case to the courts and won to a certain extent, but they didn't get any sort of real justice out of it, I don't think. So no admittance that it was the government or the government knew what it was. So
even though lots of helicopters and other things flew over while they were being subjected to radiation.
So, I could see where there could be some sort of backlash, but I think that's what we've kind of been saying through disclosure all along. I think Dr. Joe Buckman, is he a doctor? I think he's a doctor, but Joe Buckman has been saying, we need some sort of like amnesty for, these whistleblowers to come forth. Well, we also need something in that sense as well. Like we can't just have a free for all of,
Is this a topic of conversation? Go look at Brian Bender's tweets from today, where he's talking about high-level people in the Pentagon. This is the kind of thing that's all they're talking about.
And I live in Illinois, and we're one of the first states to enact. What am I thinking of? Like reparations for marijuana crimes, things like that. So, I could see legislation in the future that might allow for something like that, but I don't think it'll just be like a floodgate of everybody gets to sue and here's your check kind of situation,
Okay, but this also gets back, Nicole and Bob, to the whole Elizondo and Mellon being almost ostracized from this bill, and yet they are the ones who led the charge to informing the Intelligence Committee where Rubio sat, where Gillibrand sat, where Vice President Harris sat before the election. At some point, do they not get their own, I'm going to use the word reparations or respect, to get back into the community on a government level? Because to me, from an outsider's perspective, this really looks like a shot over their bow, both Mellon and Elizondo, that you've taken it this far, but it's time for you to shut up.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, throughout history, people who stir stuff up often don't get stuff made right. And I'll give you maybe an example that everyone will have heard of. We had a guy that came by and said, if you do these things, you're going to be okay for eternity, and we still nailed him to a piece of wood and killed him. Okay, so I'm just telling you, the people that are out there stirring the pot, they are often sacrificed for the common good.
So do you think this could be the end of both Elizondo and Mellon in the UFO game?
I believe it could be the end of Elizondo easily. I don't believe Mellon will be pushed away so easily. He's just got a lot of clout and a lot of family.
G. West is asking, could a radio telescope put out this 3 gigahertz S-band frequency like gigantic Chinese radio telescopes?
That is a terrific question, but let me explain it to you carefully. When you have an antenna that big, the beam is aimed at a dot. Which one of the infinite number of dots in the sky do we aim it? So the problem is aiming it. And so, yeah, you can put out a lot of power and aim it, focus it on a point, but you don't know what point to focus it on until you've made the discovery.
Could we be able to see with enough high-powered telescopes if there are structures outside, say, on Mars? Do we have that technology?
I think look, all of the answer to all of these questions is yes, but it's finding the willpower and the monetary resources. Who's going to pay for it? I mean,
Elon's going to pay for it. We're
Elon Musk wants to take private enterprise to the stars and make a lot of money bringing stuff back. Maybe that's the way it'll be done.
I think that's like this whole next space race. It's going to be how to get into space and bring back stuff from space and mine space and get helium-3 and stay in a hotel, floating in the atmosphere.
We're forgetting one player. Steve Justice retired from TTSA, and he went and is showing drawings of things that look like weird craft that he's going to be doing while working for Virgin Galactic.
Wow. Well, let's open up the conversation here, because the one thing we haven't talked about was this. Aliens. Now, there is a lot of talk going around through this phenomenon in D.C. We've heard NASA talk about it. We've heard it come out of the Pentagon about extraterrestrials. We're getting into that conversation. That conversational door has finally opened, even though it's only open a smidgen. Yet here we are, for 4 years, all we heard was we're not allowed to talk aliens with UAP, which is why they switched it from UFOs to try and segregate it. At what point do we start seeing the hot button topic be on extraterrestrials, Bob?
One admission that they've been here, and that's it. The floodgate will open.
do you think that you could see somebody like Elizondo, even though he's highly captured by his own NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, to all of a sudden maybe, after being left out, going a little rogue?
What I'm expecting is Elizondo and Mellon to pressure the crap out of the people in Congress to force declassification of things they know. That's what I'm expecting.
Nicole?
And if it works, great. If it doesn't, they just have to keep trying to get it out another way.
Wow. The question was, would Lou go rogue? Wouldn't it be something if he did? If he was
He's
just
walked right up next to the line, but has not crossed it.
Right, and that's what I mean. If he was like, alien bodies, picture, or saw one, picked it up. I don't know. It would be great.
I don't think he wants to be the next Santilli. So I think he's trying to force the government to reveal.
But if Elizondo comes out and says, in my personal life, I have had interaction with extraterrestrials, that does not violate his NDA. And in order to get back at the government, he could fire that salvo and say, I have personally had interaction with extraterrestrials in my personal life from the time I was, say, 19 years old until now.
But he's not going to do it. He wants the government to admit, not him. He does not himself want to have to admit. I just think he does not want to be put in the same basket as other experiencers who all the scientists and people they know are calling lunatics.
I understand.
Even though we know they're not. One of the things I wanted to talk to Bob Davis about is he conducted the largest statistical survey of experiencers that we know about, and the common thread is at least 90% of them have zero psychopathologies. They're not crazy. So that was an amazing study he did. And until that's widely accepted, Elizondo's not going to come out and say that, in my opinion.
Well, it depends if he wants to go rogue or not. I would love to see that.
I think who will. I don't think he will.
All right, Jonathan Davies. So we got about 3 minutes to go here. Experiencers, unique intuition, and biomarkers work done by Gary Nolan and Kit Green will come out soon, and astronauts have been found to have had the same biomarkers. Will NASA come clean on this?
So Bill, the new NASA director, has told his scientists to go to work on stuff. But what he told them to go to work on was UAPs. I don't know if he'll tell them to go to work on this because NASA does not have molecular biology or genetic stuff in their portfolio unless it's discovered in outer space.
Nicole?
Man. Well, my brain wandered there. I was reading that excellent question, and I love Jonathan Davies. I follow you all the time. It was awesome. You were on the other time on the panel. But, okay, so Nolan and Green are working on biomarkers, and who they have allegedly talked to in experiencer world is pretty interesting. So if they have a certain biomarker that you only get if you've been in space, that's heavy. That's so heavy. Among the other things that Dr. Nolan's working on, like he's got his hands in some heavy sciencing happening.
Yep. Well, the work he and Jacques have done, which they're pissing me off by not telling the world about, is that they found materials. They have no idea how they manufacture them, and they're manufacture them down to the atom level.
Right.
I mean, come on.
They're just not. They're just not excited as I am.
My fandom of them is lessened by this.
I know, but they want it. I think they want it to be skeptic proof. I guess, you know what I mean. I don't think they want to jump any guns and make things sound bigger than they are. Maybe, but it's still going to be huge. Like, oh, we'll have to see.
Well, I'd love to have them tell us what they know.
Well, in just a few moments.
The other person in that question, I'd love to have him tell us what he knows, because he knows a whole lot he hasn't told people, and that's Kit Green.
Right. What was his bird name?
I don't know, but it's time for us to break.
Yeah, all right. Coming up next, the fedora-wearing John Hudson is going to join us with Science Bob and Nicole Sakach as Science Bob and Friends is going the distance tonight. He's awake. He's alive. He's Science Bob. And we're going to continue on Spaced Out Radio when we return right after this for the final half of the show. This is exciting.
Who does the little whisper voice in your SOR stuff? There's the whisper that comes through. Who did that part?
What whisper?
There's a whisper. I'll have to point it out. It says like, yeah, or something like that. Really lightly.
I've never heard it.
Really?
No.
There's like a yeah or a, I don't know. Dang it. Now I'm going to have to record it and find the marker, find the spot.
Ghost Dragon, thank you for another super chat tonight. Really do appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Here's my new Luna 3rd gen night vision binoculars that record video and sound. These things are awesome. I was really hoping to use this out with Melinda along with my little handheld camera. These things are great.
Give me 2 seconds here. Hi, gorgeous Block Chic. Greg O'Brien, nice to see you. Ty Flynn Preston, welcome to our channel. Paul, nice to see you. The gorgeous and talented Alicia Carey Wyatt from Texas. Thank you for joining us. Excuse me. Who else has arrived here? Shows you how far back I am in the chat room right now. And so much, Jake. How you doing, buddy? Nice to have you here. And who else has shown up here? We're caught up. We are caught up. Is that a Snuggie you're wearing?
No, it's a long, fuzzy blanket, though. Somebody said, can I turn up my heat if I'm that cold? And, yeah, I am that cold. I get massive cold bouts, and my heat is actually set on 73. So, I shouldn't need a blanket, but I need a blanket. Hi, Mr. Hudson.
Evening. I appreciate you saying that, though, because I right now my wife and my daughter are out, so I'm on my own, and lately I've been set my 74, even 75, and thinking, look at what I'm getting away with. Happy to clam. I live in tropic weather if I could.
I would set it on 75, but it does no good, and then I just wet out everybody else.
This is the camera. One version under this is the camera that Chris Bledsoe has. This one will show you color at night.
Oh, wow. So what does something like that run these days?
$900.
Oh, my, under $1,000. Wow.
Yeah, and the Luna binoculars were $799.
Wow.
Yeah, they're getting
Greg O'Brien, I have horked a restaurant mug from every restaurant I've ever worked in. So I have not worked it out back, though.
You can come in my house and look at my coffee mug collection and tell every embassy and consulate, et cetera, I've ever been in.
Jason,
that's probably a security violation.
Jason Pearl and Fab,
steak knives and ramekins. Like, I don't know. I return most of them. They just come home with me. I eat and drink and leave and come back, and yeah.
Fab 22.
Then you wind up with one.
Fab 22, Nicole, about 20 minutes ago, heard the wow as well.
Yeah, there's a whisper. I'm telling you, there's a whisper in your music. And I thought it was purposeful, but maybe now
never
it's
heard
not.
it.
Yeah. It says like, yeah, or wow. There's something. I heard it twice today, and I've heard it in other shows.
Maybe it's EVP.
I'll only show around where someone starts talking about hearing voices and someone else confirms it and they start talking about like what the possible source is.
Well, I mean, I have heard it while I've been a part of the show, and I've heard it as I've listened to other shows. So that's what's like, it catches my ear whenever it happens.
Now I'll have to listen.
The first time I heard it, I thought it was one of you guys. Like, I thought it was like Willie or Sonny, like doing their thing, you know, simultaneously. But no, it's not.
All right. We've got about 20 seconds. Thank you to all the super chatters tonight and all our new subscribers. We really appreciate it. Still 182 people watching on YouTube. That's amazing. And we're going to get going here. We're going right to the top of the hour here. The fedora-wearing John Hudson has joined us. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It's time once again as we bring in the fedora-wearing John Hudson. Now, when he comes in, we have to play this. Yes, John requested a theme song, so we got to give him a theme song. But John, we're going to start off with a little breaking news here with you tonight. I want all of our Spaced Out Radio listeners, all of them, to book April 22nd to 24th. April 22nd to 24th. Last night, we decided that will be our Spaced Out Radio party in Vegas. It is decided. Where? Who? What? Where? When? Why? Well, we've got the when. We got the where. We got the why. But I want to see how many people are out there. We're going to start advertising it very, very soon for each and every one of you out there. And we're going to have a get-together in Las Vegas. We're going to bring Science Bob out. We're going to bring Nicole Sakach out. We're going to bring out a number of people who are going to come on in and make this a wonderful get-together of Spaced Out Radio listeners. We're going to advertise it on our website. Heck, my team doesn't even know about this yet. That's how new this is. And I'm telling you guys first. April 22nd,
this is true.
24th, in Las Vegas. We'll tell you where. we're all going to gather around at a...
What strip club?
John, there's a mute button for a reason at times.
No, I was reading a comment on the list, man. That wasn't me, man.
I know, but...
That was beautiful.
Yes, it will not be anything to do with adult scenery around. It won't be at, I'm not going to name a few names that I may or may not have been to in the past. All right?
Funny Ranch.
No, never been there. Never been there. Hustler Club.
Holly Madison's show in Vegas was great.
Either way, let's get this back on track after John had a real dirty mind there for a moment. But April 22nd and 24th, what we're going to do is we're going to gather all our Spaced Out Radio listeners. I want confirmation if you're coming or not. Because if you give me confirmation, I'm going to give you guys a swag bag of Spaced Out Radio gear. We'll have more details as we get closer, but I think this is a good Christmas present for all our Spaced Out Radio listeners to start saving up for and make this happen. All right, John Hudson, you're coming into the conversation, and of course, we still have Nicole Sakach and Science Bob here for Science Bob and Friends. So let's get to it, John. I want to know your thoughts on the Gillibrand Amendment passing the House mostly unchallenged.
Well, I mean, I do think it's a little interesting that, I don't know, to me, there's absolutely no aspect of this that isn't fascinating. From the reactions people are having, the reactions people aren't having, the intentional reactions people are trying to portray. I mean, everything is just, there's so much layers of funny involved in this that it's terribly enjoyable. But I mean, it's very encouraging, and it should be. It should be celebrated. I mean, it should be. We should all be. This is an achievement. This is something that everyone played some small role in helping to make happen. Right. This is a result of pressure. Someone like Gillibrand doesn't get the motivation to get up and speak with the energy she does, if she doesn't have constituents that aren't telling her that that's how they feel, right? So, I mean, this is a good thing. This is a really, really good thing. I am a little bummed about the science advisory stuff being pulled, but you figure something had to be given. The fact that there was back end negotiations going on to a nitty gritty enough level that specifically got removed as a concession shows that there was some pretty detailed back-end negotiations going on, which is a good thing. Because it shows that the military was actually involved and they were participating and they were negotiating. So I think from almost every angle you look at this, it's all goodness. It really is. It's all goodness.
John's flag waving. I'm
surprised. Got to pass the Senate and be signed by the president.
Yeah, it's still got to run. It's still got to run through the whole thing. But I'm honestly, to me, the biggest victory was that it survived to this point in reconciliation. That basically the language was preserved, right? The fact that language was preserved.
The sponsors now include a blonde female liberal Democrat from New York and Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. They're both sponsors on this bill. And moderate Roy Blunt and Rubio is still in there. He's a sponsor of this. So it is really, truly bipartisan.
Yep. And honestly, I really do. And I this isn't like facetious at all. I really do believe that some of them, and I don't know if all of them, but some of them are really enjoying the fact that they can be honestly bipartisan about this. You can see it. Their posture changes. They relax a little bit, Like I think that more and more of them are going to glob onto this issue because they all miss having those occasional nonpartisan issues where they can actually work together, right? It's a lot more fun when you work together.
Yep.
Wow. You said it right there, John. I mean, I think for years, people have been aware that ufology is this strange cross-section of spirituality and politics, and it really could unite the world. We might be seeing the beginnings.
Well, no, I mean, certainly so, because I mean, as we've talked about before, there's so many people that go on there's all these story arcs that we all seem to follow, depending on where we start researching this and where we are and how we follow. And, so many of us, I mean, there's many different story arcs, but I mean, just the perfect example is how many of us go from bits and bytes and in physics to consciousness and near death and orbs and stuff like that. I mean, like, most of us would never even imagine we would be considering studying orbs in any kind of a serious way when we started this, right? Like, I mean, or near death. I mean, come on. It's like, no, it's like nighttime TV stuff, right? But there you are, and it's like, wow, okay, bummer. Thanks, Grant. So.
I love it. I love it.
Well, it is going to be interesting to see how this moves forward, because I'm curious, does anybody on the panel see the actions of Susan Goff or other people within the Pentagon, trying to go public saying this is not a good amendment for the American public?
No. No. All the backroom negotiations have been done, and there'll have to be a serious monkey wrench for it to not go through the Senate and be signed by the president. That, and I want to point out something. It never would have gotten here if Biden was against it.
No way.
Never. He's for it, or it would not have gotten here.
Well,
there's no point. There's no point putting the effort that they have to. The effort they've had to put into at this point is so tremendous. You're not going to do that unless you don't have some sort of a logical guarantee that it's going to work out. Too much of an investment.
Well, we're going to see where this goes, and it's going to be an interesting few weeks here coming up until this gets passed, and then what gets set up right after that. I mean, I'm very interested in seeing what's going on. All right, John, let's see what else you have in your news category for us tonight here on the Unbiased UFO Report. Dr. Sonny White makes a real warp bubble. What's this all about?
Well, this I was excited to talk about, and then when I heard Bob was going to be on, I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." So I'd love to give Bob's feedback on this as well. But yeah, I mean, this is actually so. First off, so Sonny White, Dr. Sonny White, physicist, came from years and years of NASA. He ran the essentially the Advanced Propulsion lab that that it was really kind of a forward-thinking, really fringy sort of called EagleWorks, but they looked into some pretty crazy stuff. And while he was at EagleWorks, he invented what he believed was an interferometer. No, anyway, basically a device that he believed could actually detect interferometer. Thank you. It could detect actually a warp field. And the woman he was working with, she actually wrote a paper that put some doubt on whether that's really what they had discovered. But my point is that Sonny White was already working on this stuff a while ago. He was very, very curious about the Alcubierre warp drive paper. He's the one that did. I mean, I have his warp field mechanics presentations on my laptop that I downloaded years ago. I mean, he was talking about this stuff for years. And so what happened was that after leaving NASA, he has his own consulting company. They're doing a very specialized contract looking at specifically Casimir effect scenarios for some sort of targeted research. And while doing this research, they bumbled into what they believe is an actual, real, incredibly small, incredibly, like minuscule, like, you're basically inferring its existence through exterior means, but they believe that they formed a small warp bubble. Now, not everyone agrees with this, but what I think I loved was that basically Sonny White goes into the interview and basically says, and while I think this is amazing, I think it's only because of the work I've done in the past that I recognized what I saw, the behavior that I saw, as something odd. If I hadn't had that previous work, I don't know if I would have noticed what I noticed. But with that said, I can't pursue this right now. that's not what our work is focused on. Our work is focused on this other thing. So I need to stay focused on that. So if later on, someone wants to give me money to focus on that, I would gladly look into it. And this is how I do it. But that's not what I'm focusing on right now. So, it is peer reviewed. It is actually, out for everyone to kind of tear apart. Some people have come out against it. But this is what we've been waiting for is someone to figure out a way to create a very simple, very basic, very tabletop sort of demonstration that people can start scaling from. So this is going to happen at some point, whether it's Sunny did it or someone else does it later. It's coming.
All right, your final topic for tonight: Spy One radar. First time radar matches pilot reports.
Yeah, so this is just basically, this is basically my pet hypothesis, and so but in light of the panel, I wanted to kind of throw it out there because I'd love to get your guys' feedback. So this whole question of why now, I had to kind of honestly, I had to kind of force myself to elevate that to a concern of mine. Because it wasn't, and I did so because I like you, Dave, and you seem to really care about it. So I tried really hard to care about it, and essentially the best thing I could come up with is that if you have a scenario where for years people in the field, whether they be pilots or otherwise, are seeing things, whatever those things are, but whenever they see them, there's nothing else that can confirm it, right? There's no other data. There's no other data that can confirm what they saw. No one's going to want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, right? Because there's nothing to support it at all, But as soon as that Spy One radar came out, that was really the first time that they started seeing these certain types of objects. And so they had basically, developed into a frequency range or developed a method of detection that they were now picking up these objects where they were not picking them up before. So this became the very first time that now when a pilot says, I saw something, now they have some real confirmation that she actually did see something. Not what it is, but that whatever he or she thought they saw, there was something physically there. Now that you have those two things, now that's something I can actually do something with, right? I can actually take that up the chain of command. I can actually defend that. I may actually want to defend that on behalf of someone who reports to me because that's something I can actually sink my teeth into without any sort of data. And so part of me is really wondering if it really just was the Spy One radar that became the catalyst for why now.
Bob, what's your thoughts?
So I'm going to say as much as I can say because I worked on the Spy One radar in the last 4 years and made artificial intelligence upgrades to the way the system works. So I'm just going to say, but back when Kevin Day was out on the Nimitz, there was a major upgrade to the Spy One radar. And he was using it to see these things all the way up to 80,000 feet and then vectored Fravor to an actual object with Alex Dietz, and then later Chad Underwood to the same object, and Chad got the FLIR video. All of these things together, these multi-messenger sensors married together, is what Chris Mellon has been raising hell about in the blog on TTSA, which is now captured in the language in the NDAA. That's what all of this stuff is about, exactly what John's talking about. Because if I see something and I'm an eyewitness, nobody's going to believe me. But if I see something and I'm an eyewitness and I have a video and I have an audio and I have a gravitational accelerometer and a magnetometer and a radar and so forth, then they can shut the F up because I have data that they cannot refute.
Yep, and the thing is that Kevin Day has said point blank that the vehicles that were on site that day that had not been upgraded, they did not see the objects. Right. It was only the ships, only the vehicles that had been upgraded to that latest version that actually started seeing them. So there was an actual functional difference, an increase in functional capabilities that came with that upgrade that allowed them to see something that they were not seeing before. And that's a big. And I'm not even saying they did it on purpose. I mean, I'm sure whatever feature was done on purpose. But the fact that feature then opened them up to see these objects, I would be shocked to find out if that was intentional. My guess is that was completely bumbled into. But it doesn't change the fact that now they have, confirming evidence to something. And don't get me wrong, anyone who has a pilot that says they saw something, it kills them to not be able to back them up. Right? You don't want to have to tell your pilot to go shove it and keep their mouth shut, right? You want to back up your people, but without that data, what do? You can't. So once you have that data, the whole thing changes.
It's also the reason they fly people out to ship and grab the discs and take them and hide them.
Yep. Oh, yeah, because they were probably quite surprised. I'm sure they were quite surprised that anyone started seeing anything at all. Right? I mean, I'm sure someone was, someone had hypothesized that might happen. So I wouldn't say it was a total shock, but yeah, I mean, it's just to me, like I really think that there was this practical, mundane, boring aspect of it that essentially without that corroborating data point, without that third party data point, everything that anyone was saying was just hearsay. And you had decades of it, and everyone got sick of it. But what could you do? And then suddenly this radar comes out, and you're like, "Aha! Now I got him." Right? To me, that's like a big change.
Look, it's that evidence and other evidence that people looked in the intelligence committees and the armed services committees, all the way up to the National Security Council, and they said, man, this looks like something straight out of science fiction, which is why we had the NDAA amendment today. These sensors made the day.
Right, and exactly, and that's the other thing that we won't even really get in purview to for years is that there was in every single sensor group there might have been data that pertains to this that just wasn't being used, or it wasn't being addressed, or it was being dropped, or whatever, right? It just wasn't being addressed properly. And once one data set recognizes it as something real, now you get to go back and pour through all, and now you get to start reassigning, and now you can start. Man, it opens up to such deep levels. It's amazing what you can find out once you start making those connections.
What a run! What a run tonight. 3 hours of straight UFO talk on Science Bob and Friends here on Spaced Out Radio. Science Bob, Dr. Bob McGwier, much love. And I know this is our last time we'll talk to you until after Christmas and probably into the new year on air. I'm sure you have a few words for our audience with about 40 seconds left.
I do. Thanks for everyone for being here, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Be safe, be well, take care, and safe travels.
Awesome. Nicole Sakach, much love to you, and I know we'll probably sneak you on again every now and again. No, maybe not.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, probably. If John decides to have another birthday party, we may have to bring you on again, Nicole.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Always on standby, just for you.
I appreciate
it. Actually, honestly, you're pulling really good numbers, so it's like, we should probably bring you in more often.
Well, she's got the brains, I got the looks. Let's make it happen. All right, John Hudson, another stellar, unbiased UFO report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And stick around. If you're watching on YouTube and Twitch, we will continue with the after show right after this. But what a great show tonight of Ufology 101 coming on strong here on Science Bob and Friends. Man, we're in exciting times right now, aren't we? And it just makes it so much more fun because we don't know where the hell things are going, and that's just the way we like it. Yes, indeed. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio.
I know you're out.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, Nicole,
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, bring him to Vegas for our party April 22nd and 24th. Good night.